Layla recalled the sandpaper barber used to give a nice finish to the wooden cradle he was making for the baby on the way. Hush. We shouldn't disturb the others. They were a team. Hold it, he said, and pushed her hand down the front of his pajama shorts, towards a place between his legs. The child winced and drew her fingers back. Grabbing her wrist, he shoved her hand down again, sounding frustrated and furious. I said, hold it. Under her palm Layla felt his hardness. He squirmed, groaned, clenched his teeth. He moved back and forth, his breath quickening. She lay still, petrified. She wasn't even touching him anymore, but she didn't think he was aware of that. He groaned one last time and stopped moving. He was panting heavily. There was a sharp smell in the air and the bedsheet was wet. Look what you've done to me, he said when he found his voice. Layla felt confused, embarrassed. She sensed instinctively that this was wrong and it should never have happened. It was her fault. You are a naughty girl, Uncle said. He looked solemn, almost sad. You seem so sweet and innocent, but it is just a mask, isn't it? Deep underneath, you're as dirty as all the others. Bad-mannered. How you have fooled me. A stab of guilt went through Layla, so sharp she could hardly move. Tears welled up in her eyes. She tried not to cry, but failed. Now she was sobbing. He watched her for a moment. Okay, fine. I can't bear to see you cry. Almost at once, Layla's crying slowed, though she felt no better, only worse. I still love you. His lips pressed on her mouth. No one had kissed her on the mouth before. Her entire body went numb. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone, he said, taking her silence for compliance. But you must prove your trustworthiness. Such a long word. Trustworthiness. She wasn't even sure what it meant. It means you mustn't tell anyone, said Uncle, a step ahead of her thoughts. It means this will be our secret. Only 2 people can know about it, you and I. No third person allowed. Now tell me, are you good at keeping secrets? But of course she was. She was holding too many secrets in her chest already. This would be yet another one. Later on, growing up, Layla would ask herself over and again why he had chosen her. Theirs was a large family. There were others around. She wasn't the prettiest. She wasn't the smartest. In truth, she didn't think she was special in any way. She kept brooding on this, until one day she realized how awful the question was. Asking why me? Was another way of saying, why not someone else? And she hated herself for that. A holiday house with moss green shutters and a split rail fence that ended where the pebble beach began. The women were cooking the meals, sweeping the floors, washing the dishes, the men were playing cards, backgammon, dominoes, and the children ran around, unsupervised, throwing burrs at each other that stuck to everything they came into contact with. The ground was strewn with crushed mulberries and there were watermelon stains all over the upholstery. A holiday house by the sea. Layla was 6 years old. Her uncle was 43. The day they returned to Van, Layla came down with a fever. She had a metallic taste in her mouth, a knot of pain lodged deep in the pit of her stomach. Her temperature was so high that Binaz and Suzanne scooped her up and carried her between them to the bathroom, where they plunged her into cold water, to no avail. She was kept in bed. A vinegar-soaked towel on her forehead, an onion poultice on her chest, boiled cabbage leaves on her back and slices of potato all over her belly. Every few minutes they rubbed egg whites on the soles of her feet. The whole house stank like the fish market at the end of a summer's day. Nothing helped. Talking incoherently, grinding her teeth, the child slipped in and out of consciousness, sparkles of light dancing in front of her eyes. Haroun called the local barber, a man who, among his many other duties, performed circumcisions, extracted teeth and gave enemas, but it turned out he was away on an emergency. So Haroun sent for the lady pharmacist instead, not an easy decision for him to take, since he had no liking for the woman, nor she for him. No one knew her real name for sure. She was the lady pharmacist to all and sundry, a strange woman by all accounts, but one with authority. A stout, bright-eyed widow sporting a bun as tight as her smile, she wore tailored suits and perky little hats and spoke with the confidence of those used to being heard. A champion of secularism, modernity and too many other things that came from the West. A staunch opponent of polygamy, she did not hide her dislike of a man with 2 wives, even the thought of it made her cringe. In her eyes, Haroun and his whole family, with their superstitions and stubborn refusal to adapt to a scientific age, were the very antithesis of the future she had in mind for this conflicted country. Still, she came to help. She was accompanied by her son, Sinan. The boy was about the same age as Layla. An only child raised by a single working mother, it was unheard of. The people of this town often gossiped about them, sometimes with scorn, even ridicule, but trod with caution nevertheless. Despite their whispers, they still hid a lot of respect for the lady pharmacist and had found themselves, at unexpected moments, in need of her help. Consequently, the mother and son lived on the edge of society, tolerated, though never quite accepted. "How long has this been going on?" asked the lady pharmacist as soon as she arrived. "Since last night. We've done everything we could think of," said Suzanne. Benaz, by her side, nodded. "Yes, I can see what you've done, with your onions and potatoes," scoffed the lady pharmacist. Sighing, she opened her black leather bag, similar to the one carried by the local barber to boys' circumcision parties. She took out several silver boxes, a syringe, glass bottles, measuring spoons. Meanwhile, half hiding behind his mother's skirts, the boy craned his head and stared at the shivering, sweating girl in the bed. "Mama, is she going to die?" "Shh, don't speak nonsense. She'll be fine," said the lady pharmacist. Only now turning her head to the side, trying to trace the sound, Layla looked at the woman and saw the needle she held in the air, the droplet on its tip glowing like a broken diamond. She began to cry. "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you," said the lady pharmacist. Layla meant to say something but she lacked the strength. Her eyelids fluttered as her consciousness slipped away. "Okay, can one of you two give me a hand? We need to turn her on her side," said the lady pharmacist. Benaz volunteered instantly. Suzanne, equally eager to help, searched around for a meaningful task and settled on pouring more vinegar into a bowl on the bedside table. A sharp smell filled the air. "Go away," Layla said to the silhouette by her bed. "Uncle, go." "What's she saying?" Suzanne asked with a puzzled frown. The lady pharmacist shook her head. "Nothing, she's hallucinating, poor darling. She'll be fine after the injection." Layla's crying turned raw, deep, rasping sobs. "Mama, wait," said the boy, his face etched with concern. He approached the bed, leaning in close to Layla's head, and spoke softly in her ear. "You need to hug something when you get injections. I have a stuffed owl at home, and a monkey, but the owl is the best." As he spoke, Layla's sobs ebbed away into a long, slow sigh and she fell silent. "If you don't have a toy, you can squeeze my hand. I wouldn't mind." Gently, he took the girl's hand, light to the touch, almost lifeless. Yet to his surprise, just as the needle pushed in, she laced her fingers into his and did not let go. Afterwards, Layla fell asleep immediately. A thick, heavy slumber. She found herself in a salt marsh, wading alone through a thicket of reeds, beyond which extended the vast ocean, the waves rough and choppy, crashing one after another. She saw her uncle calling from a fishing boat in the distance, rowing with ease despite the weather, approaching as fast as a heartbeat. Alarmed, she tried to turn back, but she could barely move in the glutinous mud. It was then that she sensed a comforting presence beside her, the son of the lady pharmacist. He must have been standing there all along, carrying a duffel bag. "Here, take this," he said, as he pulled out of his bag a chocolate bar, wrapped in shiny tin foil. As she accepted the offer, despite her unease, Layla felt herself start to relax. When her temperature dropped and she opened her eyes, able at last to eat some yogurt soup, Layla immediately inquired about him, not knowing that they would meet again before long, and that this quietly intelligent, slightly awkward, kind-hearted and painfully shy boy would become her first true friend in life. Sinan, her sheltering tree, her refuge, a witness to all that she was, all that she aspired to and, in the end, all that she could never be. Sinan, one of the 5.